So the first season of Kimetsu no Yaiba, or in English Demon Slayer, has finished airing, and I cannot wait to share my review of the series with you. Let's have a look together. So in this review, I'll try to first give an as spoiler-free as possible review of the series. Then I will warn you when the spoilers are coming, and I can talk a little bit more in depth. Now, first of all, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the English title is Demon Slayer, is actually more correctly translated the sword of the Demon Slayer. Kimetsu, ki means oni, means demon. Metsu means to slay, to kill. No Yaiba, sword of. So the sword of the Demon Slayer would actually be a more literal translation, and in English they opted for Demon Slayer, probably because it rolls better off the tongue. The series itself then, I have to say, this anime was able to pull me in, immerse me completely in the series from the first episode. Not many anime are able to do that. I can probably count the anime TV series that are able to do that on two hands, I think. The ones that are able to pull me in so that I'm really completely absorbed by the story and that the characters speak to me so much. And this is really a testament to the writing skills of not only the manga author, but also the people, the script writers behind the anime, who are able to translate it so beautifully well to the screen. I have to say, from the get-go, I was sold. From the first episode already, I was living the story together with the characters. I was feeling their pain. I was feeling their suffering. That was incredible writing. And the thing is, it's like a train that starts and never stops until you hit the end station, the last episode of this season, and you're left wanting more. And that's the sign of a fantastically well-told, well-written story. There were no pacing problems anywhere. There were no issues where illogical things happened within the context of the world that we are presented with, of course. And I must say, the story itself, actually, the first part, without getting into spoilers here, but the first part is mostly a heartfelt story. It's the epitome of a hero's journey story. And a hero's journey, for those that don't know, is actually, people often confound this. A hero's journey means there's a hero, there's a villain, and they fight each other. But actually, the original meaning of a hero's journey means you have a main character who is not perfect, who is flawed from the get-go, as we all are. That makes the character relatable. And the hero's journey, and it's in the word actually, it's the story, the telling of his or her journey to grow as a person, to overcome his or her difficulties, to better him or herself. That can mean fighting against adversaries, but that can also mean just working on your own abilities, working on your own character, strengthening your character. A hero's journey is, if it's well told, is very enthralling, and it has been around since, well, let's say the ancient Greek times, with the mythos that have lasted all these many centuries. Why? Because it's so compelling, seeing a hero's journey. And this is what we're presented with here. We're getting a hero's journey from the main character, W'Chamaman Tanjiro. And I'm just going to explain what happens in the first episode, so to keep it spoiler free. But his family, except for his sister Nezuko, but his family, as he is away, gets slaughtered by an oni, a demon. He was away selling coals or charcoals into a neighboring village, and actually he and his family are pretty much impoverished. They are recluses, they live high up in the mountain, and they face a lot of hardships, especially since his father passed away. And Tanjiro, being the oldest son, kind of takes it upon himself to help take care of the family. He works hard, he tries his utmost, and in order to provide for the family, he goes to the city, so he goes down the mountain to sell his charcoals. He succeeds in that, and the way we are presented, this character, is as a very kind-hearted boy who just doesn't just care about his own family, but who cares about all the people that he knows. You can see that he tries to help some people in the village as well while he's there, even though they face a lot of hardships. He still manages to care for other people, to find the time and effort to help other people. And that is very at the core of his character. He is an incredibly warm-hearted young boy who not only cares for other people, but can empathize with people. And we will see that throughout the series as well. Even though he faces the worst of enemies, somehow he's still able, in the end, to empathize with them on a certain level. And that's incredibly strong storytelling. So he sells his charcoals, he goes back, and since it's already starting to get night, an old man who lives by himself along the road calls him in and says, "Look, Tanjiro, it's too dangerous out there at night. You should spend the night here, and then early in the morning you can continue your way." This is what happens, but as he has spent the night there, he goes back to his family home, and there he notices that his entire family has been slaughtered. Very brutally, I must say. There are a couple of graphic images there, but it pulls you in. It really shows you the severity of the situation, and it makes you feel that heart-wrenching moment together with Tanjiro. But as he's still reeling from the shock, he realizes that his sister isn't completely deceased yet. So he takes her up on his back and carries her down the mountain, putting in an incredible amount of effort because he had already a long journey behind him, and it's freezing, it's winter, there's snow everywhere, and he's like saying, "My lungs are almost on fire from the cold, from taking in the cold air, from exerting himself almost to past his limits." But he wants to get to the village with his sister as quickly as possible so a doctor can perhaps save her. He stumbles and falls, and as it turns out, she wasn't deceased because she herself was actually turned into an Oni, a demon. And at first she's attacking him, and normally when people turn into demons, turn into Oni, they lose all sense of self. They lose the character they had as a human being, and they become ferocious evil beings that only want to devour humans in order to gain strength and to help them recuperate when they are hurt, or when their bodies are hurt. They have an incredible amount of regenerative powers as well. So Tanjiro here is forced to fight off his own sister Nezuko, whom he loves so dearly, because she has turned into an Oni and she has lost all reasoning. It is at that moment that a member of the Kisatsubu, or the Demon Slayer Corps, appears on the scene, Tomioka, and he actually tries to kill his sister, Nezuko, because she has turned into a Oni, a demon, and that is what they do. In order to protect humanity, in order to protect innocent humans, they kill as much as possible the Oni that appear. But here something weird happens that usually doesn't. Actually, not only does Tanjiro try to protect his sister Nezuko, she, having been turned into an Oni, also tries to protect him. Which means that she has retained part of her humanity. And that really strikes Tomioka as something unusual, exceptional, and important. He uses the fight also to gauge a little bit if Tanjiro has potential. And then he decides, against all rules of the Kisatsubu, the Demon Slayer Corps, to actually save or spare her life. From there, he instructs him to go to a certain person who's going to become his teacher, to teach him the ways of the Kisatsubu, so the Demon Slayer core, so that Tanjiro can also become a Demon Slayer, and so that he, together with his sister, can try to find a way to turn her back into a human. So to reverse the process, which has never been able to be accomplished, to reverse the process of a person who turned into an Oni, or a demon, back into a human. That's the main setup of the story. Without going into spoilers, the first half of the season, I would say, focuses mostly on Tanjiro's hero journey, I would say, the way how he overcomes his own weaknesses, or at least partially overcomes his weaknesses, how he masters his techniques, how he strengthens his body resolve and his ability to fight with these Oni. And it also focuses on his bond with Nezuko. That's mostly the first part of the season, and eventually he becomes a full-flown demon slayer. Later on in the story, after they had some encounters, new characters are added to the mix, and eventually we end up, and you can see this on the poster here next to me, we end up with 4 main characters. So we have Tanjiro with his sister Nezuko, Zenitsu is added with the blue hair, and then Inosuke is the character with the boar kind of like hoodie on top, or hood on top of his head. So these will be the 4 main characters for the story moving forward, and the dynamic of the storytelling changes after those 2 characters are added to the mix, because that first half is very heartfelt, serious also. You can feel the despair, but at the same time the will to overcome these incredible difficulties by these characters. And that is the focus of the first half, and that works very well. I was really absorbed by that. I was really feeling their pain, feeling their struggle. And at the right time, we are introduced to these additional characters, and that adds a whole new dynamic with a lot more funny moments, a lot more jokes, a lot more zany moments in there, but it works. And that's a great thing. The author manages to add these elements to the story without actually taking away from that heartfelt core that is at the center of this story. It's like it's an additional layer put on top of the story, but the core remains intact, and that is incredibly well done. That is what good story writing is about. We are still there with that main story, but we have these additional elements added that add an extra dimension, an extra layer to the story, and that is incredibly well done. The whole first season really kept me enthralled from beginning to end. There was not a single episode where I thought, oh, this is filler, this is a throwaway story, or the pace is slacking off. It was a continuous flow of incredibly good storytelling. All of that is supported by a fantastic animation quality. The animation quality is incredibly high for a television series. Probably one of the highest I've seen lately, and that's saying a lot. The first episode alone, already I was thinking like, it's almost like I'm watching an anime movie. You have fine detail in the snow. You have great effects with the snow falling down. You have a tremendous amount of details in all the background shots, whether it be the snowy mountainside, whether it be a landscape with a setting sun, whether it be an old Japanese village where our heroes arrive, whether it be the inside of a building. There's always a lot of detail present there. The detail on wood, the detail of natural elements, it's all incredibly well done. The character design, fantastic. Very consistent character design, very well translated from the manga to the TV screen, and honestly, the quality I thought was not going to be able to keep up, but it did. I thought the quality was going to drop off, and they really put a lot of effort in the first few episodes to pull us in, but they kept the pace going, they kept the quality going all the way until the end of the season. A fantastically well done job by Ufotable and the other people who worked on the anime. That is fantastic. Put on that again or add to that again a fantastic score. We have a great opening theme, a great ending theme by Lisa. Guren was a huge hit in Japan, thanks to this anime, I would say. And the BGM moments are incredible. You have the right kind of soft tones in the heartfelt moments, in the sad moments. You have very sweeping BGM during the fight scenes that really reinforce the fierceness of the fight. It really pulls you in. All of this is done in an incredibly good way. Voice acting is fantastic as well. There really isn't anything I can fault this anime with. Whether it be the storytelling, the pacing, the animation, the audio, everything is top-notch, top level. This is an anime I want to watch from beginning till end. I want to see every season of this anime. It easily was able to break into my all-time top 5. I would say top 10. And that's saying a lot, because I've seen a lot of anime going back to the late 70s, early 80s. So if a new anime is able to break into that top 10, that's saying a lot. But this series managed to do it. I'm an absolute fan now. I was very enthralled from beginning to end. And now I would like to talk a little bit deeper into the story points. So we're going to head into spoiler territory. If you don't want to hear spoilers, better to stop here. If you're okay with spoilers, or if you already have seen the series, let's continue then. So a lot has already been said, but allow me to go in a couple of details a little bit farther. What I also really enjoyed was that almost every additional character, aside from the 4 main heroes here, every additional character has a role to play, has his or her own personality, and it's all interwoven very well. You have Tanjiro's teacher, who used to be part of the Kyatsubu himself, part of the Demon Slayer Corps himself. And you can really see that he cares for Tanjiro, and it's almost like a fatherly figure to him. That was very well done, the way they built that relationship between the two of them. At first he was pretty cold, almost scolding Tanjiro. But you later learn that, or you later notice, the story doesn't tell you that in as much words, but you notice that he was being so strict to Tanjiro because he wants Tanjiro to be able to grow, to be able to have the necessary skills, the necessary mindset, I would also say, and the necessary resolve in order to survive the ordeals that are going to come. And at a certain point, he says so. After Tanjiro passes the test and he's accepted into the Kisatsubu, so the Demon Slayer Corps, his teacher literally says, you've managed to to finish my training, and you've managed to pass the test. I'm sorry for all the multitude of hardships that are going to lie ahead of you, because he has been part of that corps. He has been part of the people who fight the Oni. He knows what lies ahead, the kind of heavy injuries he's going to sustain, the life-threatening situations he's going to be in, the heart-wrenching choices he's going to have to make. And it's almost like he's happy that Tanjiro survived the training and the test, but at the same time he feels sorry that he now has to continue going down that path. There are a lot of short instances here and there where one sentence is said, but there's a lot more meaning behind it. And that's also part that I love about this series. There's so much depth to not only the characters themselves, but also to the way they behave, and certain throwaway sentences you would think at first glance, if you re-watch the season again, you notice, you see that there's a deeper meaning behind it. So that was really telling when he said that to Tanjiro. And as Tanjiro goes off on his way, starts to take on his first job, so to speak, his first mission, you see that each demon he encounters, and gradually they become stronger, the demons that he encounters, but each demon that he encounters also has his or her own backstory, and is really well done, because sometimes after killing them, then with flashbacks we see the person that they were. So the Oni that gets killed, you see what kind of person he or she was, and how their own hardships and their own heartbreaks in their life are translated, in a sense, into the kind of Oni they have become. And Tanjiro, at each and every turn, shows compassion to them. Compassion doesn't mean that he lets them go on their way because they've killed a lot of people. He realizes that, Tanjiro, that he has to kill them, he has to cut their head. But at the same time, after the battle is done, and as their bodies start to wither away, you see Tanjiro sharing a tear here and there, holding their hand, and empathizing with them. And that makes him an incredible character, in my opinion. That is incredibly well done. And as things progress, and then we have zenitsu and Inosuke joining the team, man, that really, then the whole thing blooms open. I love the way they portray zenitsu. He's a coward, but really to the extreme, almost, I would say. And then you have Inosuke, who is like that go-getter, but also in an extreme sense. And then you have kind of Tanjiro in the middle there, being more of a good middle ground, and you can see that Tanjiro is really the linchpin holding everything together. Zenitsu has his own issues, is overly scared, constantly thinks he's going to be killed. Then you have Inosuke, who's constantly looking for challenge to get stronger, to prove he's the strongest one. You have Tanjiro's sister, Nezuko. Zenitsu, who starts to have feelings for her. You have that whole dynamic going on, and at the center is actually Tanjiro holding it all together, and also with his courage helping the other ones to proceed ahead, to move ahead, and to better themselves as well. And for me, the moment where the team really comes together is when they go up the mountain and they fight the spider family Oni. So we have an Oni who made like a make-believe family with other Oni, which is very unusual. Usually Oni are solitary beings. They don't group together. They're not allowed to group together, actually, because their leader is afraid that if they band together, they might be strong enough to confront and overtake him. But that Oni has settled in the mountain and has turned it into the living space of his own make-believe family. He gathered other Oni, giving them part of his blood, and in doing so, they take on an appearance that is closer to his, with a very pale skin and some red dots. And everybody has a role to play, and they're actually scared of him, and that was very well done, because there you saw that dichotomy, that how would I put it? You kind of see that you can create a bond with people, but that bond can be based on heartfelt love, as is the case with Tanjiro and his sister Nezuko, but that bond can also be based on fear and almost terrorizing the other person. And that is what we see with the Oni. And the Oni doesn't realize it at first. He says, at a certain point, he says he sees the bond between Nezuko and Tanjiro, how they fight for each other, how they protect each other. He says, I want your sister. I want her in my family. I want that bond. And Tanjiro tells him, he says, you can't have that bond as long as you don't understand that fear is not a good basis for a bond. It's true love that is the core of the kind of bond that we have. So we have all these deep meanings and actually true moments, I would call them, that really elevate the story, in my opinion. So that was a great part of the story with those Oni, with that make-believe family. And the great thing is we saw each member shine. We saw Tanjiro, we saw Nezuko fighting to the fullest of their abilities, covering for each other, protecting each other. You saw Zenitsu finally being able to actually show some of his prowess, even though he did it while he was asleep, as is usually the case with him. He falls asleep and all of a sudden it's like his innate ability awakens. So that's also a great little thing about the character, and it's great the way you see that he really was able to overcome his own foe as well, and as he is almost beaten and left dying there with the poison that was injected in him, still he manages, instead of going back to his fears, which would have accelerated the poison with irregular breathing, he says, I need to calm down. I need to think of what my master has taught me. I need to control my breathing, slow down the poison so that it can get here in time and give me an antidote. And that was a great way to make a little bridge towards flashbacks from Zenitsu, where you can see him with his teacher, and you can see his teacher teaching him the ways of the Kyatsubu, and you can learn a little bit more about that character. And we see a bit of the same with Inosuke. Actually, you see some flashbacks from when he was actually a baby, how he was abandoned as a baby, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to be told there. And that's great. You see them struggling, you see them fighting, each with their own abilities, and then you see a bit of their backstory. And I think that was incredibly well done. And you think like, oh, here we have some kind of high point, we have an apotheosis. There are still episodes left. Is it going to go downhill from there? No. Actually, the story just keeps on building and getting better, because then they're taken to the headquarters of the Kyatsubu. And then you have the whole story about, well, Tomioka was okay with them behaving in that way, but actually the other Hashira, so the other main pillars, those are the generals, so to say, of the Demon Corps or Demon Slayer Corps. So these head figures, all of them were actually opposed to it, and Tomioka was the only one who was because he saw what happened when Nezuko was fighting and protecting Tanjiro. So all of them were actually against it. And that was also actually a very, very intense moment, I think, when you see how they try to show, one of them tries to show how Nezuko is actually a ravenous demon, stabs her a couple of times, cuts a wound in his arm, so blood drips out, and says, here, food is ready, just go for it, just take it. And then the tension that where you think like, is she gonna do it or not? Is she gonna be able to hold back? And again with heartfelt moments with Tanjiro struggling, screaming as he is being held down, trying to protect his sister. That was those were incredibly powerful scenes. So yeah, I must say the whole season worked incredibly well, and it just kept building on top of each layer that is already there. So a fantastic anime, a fantastic season, great characters, great character development as well. And actually, I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest. The next story is going to be told in movie form, I have heard, and already the quality is so incredibly high, so I can only imagine what they're going to be doing there. But I'm looking forward to it. It's a great ride. I'm glad I'm on board to follow the ride. I'm gonna stick it out to the end. This is a story that you really have to see, that you really have to experience. I can only urge everyone to get the series or to get a subscription where you can stream it, because this is an absolute top anime from start to finish. If they can keep this up, we have a big winner here. So hope you enjoyed my review of the first season of Kimetsu no Yaiba or Demon Slayer. Hope you enjoyed. See you guys in the next one, and take care. Jane! Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, tap the notification bell, and sound off in the comments. And hey, while you're here, why not check out another video?